In the 216th Block Talks, we speak with Catie Romero-Finger, founder and CEO of Babs, who explains why data gets crypto marketing beyond the hype. I'm your host, Mauricio Magaldi, and this is Block Drops, your weekly digest on blockchain for business. These news are not a form of endorsement, sponsorship, or encouragement for consumption, and are meant for educational purposes only. All right, everybody, I'm here with Catie Romero-Finger, who's going to tell us who she is and what she does with blockchain. Catie, welcome to Block Talks.
Thanks for having me. It's very, very great to meet you, Mauricio.
Good to have you. So let's start from the beginning. What is the origin story or superhero origin story of Catie Romero-Finger, and how did she land in the world of crypto?
So been in tech for like 20 years. And in 2019 was got tagged to work on a project that was that hired me basically on equity. This is a startup and they were trying to get something off the ground. And one of the projects was working with the private blockchain called Corda, which actually just in token last week, someone said it was a scam. So I don't know if it's a scam or not, but I think it still exists. So anyway, so they were trying to use that to work with, and we were working on a project with Citibank to increase node speed. And I kind of was new. I understood tech, got tech, but was new to the blockchain world, and just found it super, super interesting. And the team took me under their wing, learned a ton, helped try to figure out a go-to-market strategy because marketing is my background, and never looked back. And then the pandemic hit, and it was one of those things where I had enough knowledge that I could keep using it and start working in different projects that were in the blockchain space. I live in Europe. I've been in Europe for 16 years in the south of Spain, originally from Chicago. And Spain at the time, I had been doing some remote work, but not a ton. Is much more of a culture of like going to the office, and this world just opened up a whole new um, kind of life for me because I was able to really work in so many different areas and still enjoy the advantage of living in sunny southern Spain. So yeah, that's my origin story. That's my origin story of blockchain, but it's not the origin story of Babs, which is my company. I can tell you that too if you'd like.
Let's go into that because I want to know about that convergence.
Obviously worked with it was called EYA for a while, trying to figure out this whole node situation. A pandemic hit and Hong Kong completely shut down. So the Citibank office just shut down and any innovative initiatives kind of stopped. Then we started working kind of as freelance. Had two buddies. We started a small blockchain consulting for PR. And from that was found via LinkedIn by an agency that was out of Asia. They basically were trying to help Asian blockchain or Web3 at the time, really, projects come into the Western space. So they looked to me to help with that. Started working as CEO for them for a while, and my COO is my current co-founder. We got along really, really well and figured why make money for someone else when we can do it ourselves, and started Babs in 2022 and have been going strong since. So it started as she and I, one other co-founder that's kind of in the background. It's like 4 or 5 people, and now we are up to about 18, 20, depending, some part-time people, and worked pretty much exclusively like in the DeFi infrastructure, AI space, very much working around bringing data to the forefront of Web3 marketing. So yeah, that's my Genesis story.
I love that genesis. I love that. Um, you're probably the first person from a marketing background and foreground um, that we have on the show. So, can you kind of walk us through how different marketing is for Web3 versus traditional industries, or even the corporate blockchain, enterprise blockchain space you operated around for a while? How do they differ? How are they the same? Are there things that you can port from one another that benefit, each other, or the sector? What were the things that you were able to pull from one and bring? Like, what's the mix there?
what I think the most I bring from the kind of the corporate world is the strategic mindset. So when Babs is, we refer to ourselves as the number one data driven agency in Web3. And that means that we use a slew of different data tools, and then we're building our own tool with two partners to really be able to marry together on chain and off chain data and put that together to create to get the most ROI out of any sort of campaign that we put together. Um, so that's how we are different as an agency. But one of the things that I find, and I think my head of strategy, who I work really close with, Johnny, find is that a lot of Web3 marketing is the coming together of understanding so many facets of a company. So when I was in the corporate world, I needed to understand um, business modeling and strategy and all of this stuff in market, but not to the depth of you do of what you do in Web3. So Web3, I think it's an amalgamation of everything that has to come together to make anything successful. So your business strategy, your go-to-market strategy, your tokenomics, your distribution strategy, your growth strategy, all of that has to come together. We're just, and this is like so crass to say, but Johnny often says like we're just the shit at the end of the rainbow in the sense that you need all of these great pieces to really work before marketing even can come in and be successful. So I think that's the major difference with Web3 versus Web2 or corporate world is things can function in more of a silo than they can with Web3. Whereas in Web3, there's really everything has to work for projects to be successful.
Let's double click on that because I want to know the whole rainbow thing. Um, can you give it can be industry examples. It doesn't need to be any of your
Yeah.
clients or any of your what are two examples? One of like hallmark staple example of Web3 marketing well done that we've seen, and we can all appreciate that this was really great product or really great solution with really great marketing, and something on the opposite end of that spectrum where the entire case was in shambles because it was like, and can you maybe help us understand, compare and contrast, why that is, why the difference is so staggering?
Some of it is budget, right? Like you need budget to do amplification and to do like to get the campaigns moving. That is 100% going to be, it's very hard to get a camp. It's like any investment. You're not going to get an ROI of something you invest $5 into, right? So you need to have a decent budget. But I think I'll give two examples, both I know firsthand. One that was a super successful uh, kind of campaign and product or marketing in general is a client. It's an RWA project. And I think what worked so well was that it has a really good founder. The business model is very solid. So we know exactly what's happening, what the project roadmap looks like, all that stuff. They have an internal tokenomics team that's really, really good. And then there's this very cool component of it because a lot of time for RWA projects, it's like TradFi people coming into DeFi, but these guys are DeFi going into TradFi. So they've approached it and we've worked with them really closely from that angle of how do we bring DeFi to TradFi? And we've used data tools, we've used really good messaging, we've created like a key NFT community, which we all thought NFTs were dead, but when you put utility behind them, they're alive and well. I think it's like up 140% over the weekend and launched last week or something, the NFT community. So it's crazy. Um, and so that was an amalgamation, like that was working together, working through different various streams, everything making sense. On the other side, we've had projects where, for example, we didn't have insight into that budget. There was more worry to TGE before the product was ready. That's one of the biggest mistakes. You want to always go product first, really, unless you've built up a very loyal community, which you need to do with a lot of money usually. Too much money spent on listing and not enough put into the community. So I think like those are the common mistakes people always look at. For example, like Hyperliquid is a great example, very successful. They didn't even take VC money; they did all their raise via community. So without like calling people out, I always feel like that's not fair. I don't know what's happening behind the scenes. I think those are the two varying aspects where you see failures and successes. It's really, they say like a lot of projects die before they start, really based on just poorly spending from a founder. Founder runs out of money. Not the product isn't good. It's just you didn't put that, you didn't allocate things to the right places. So I think that's where you see the differences.
In the same vein of like analyzing, good practice versus, bad practice, are there any red flags in projects that you look for when you're approached by a project? Because if as you say, if the product isn't great, then what story are you telling actually? Well, what narratives can you craft if you don't have any substrate to actually
Mhm.
build anything upon? But in your experience, are there like what are the top three red flags, and why are they red flags when you come across a potential client and you turn them down on the basis of that analysis? What are the usual and by all means, I'm not trying to get you to spill the beans or tell any trade secrets, but what is in your experience things that have made the difference, and you saw them maybe going with a competitor and then fumbling everything because the red flags were confirmed.
Okay, so we always do a strategy phase. So it's like the first 2 weeks, first 2, 3 weeks, depending on the complexity of the product, we do a strategy. And one of the red flags that we've learned the hard way is when we do that, and we have a whole team of researchers, we have a team of strategists that go in and really we base our strategy on what we can show you from like a data perspective and what's been kind of and good practices. It's a bit of both. So a red flag is like you've basically laid out this is how you should do it. This is what the data is showing us. This is what we need to be successful. And then a founder comes back and it's like, no, I don't want to do that. I want to do this. And really has no reason to back it up. It's just because this is how it's been done. This is like what I want to do. And that is a red flag strictly, I think, not because like what we do is always right, but because you've paid someone to help you because you have recognized you're not sure of what to do. And then you don't hear what you want to, and therefore you kind of go your way. And then and then but you want us to execute your plan. And that is always a difference of, it's like anything. It's like dating someone. You're like, I don't like anything about you, but I want to keep dating you. So it doesn't work. So that's always the
kind
red
of
flag.
kind of toxic as well,
Yeah,
right?
it's very toxic. It's very toxic. And honestly, we have done it. We're like, okay, well, they want to do it this way. Let's just try. And then it always turns out poorly. And the project always, there's always like some moment where the founders like needs like a Hail Mary for us to figure out how to come in and change something and make it right. And the token isn't working. And you're like, dude, I told you from the beginning this wasn't gonna work. So, but it's a lot of that's on us. And I've said that to the team, like we need to recognize if we don't align after strategy phase, we probably should part ways as opposed to trying to make it work. So I think that's a red flag. Founders are a red flag that I've learned. Do your DD on founders. Like someone that has been in the business, that has maybe failed but can recognize the failure, that knows product, that all of that stuff. Because there's a lot of times where I'm like very convinced, gullible sometimes. We're like, oh, it sounds so great. This is so good. And Johnny will be like, it's just words. Like, let's do our DD. Let's figure this out. And then you look and they're building like an AI product and their last job was, project manager at like some random company. And you're like, well, how do these guys know what AI is, So I think that's another really big red flag. And then probably investors to know you want at least some good investors behind them or um, solid like whale group or something that gives it a little bit of validity. So I think those are my tried and tested. Is that how you say it? Red flags.
You mentioned a few times community, and to a certain extent, this was one of the things that kind of maybe not attracted me to crypto, but kept me in crypto. It's the people you meet, the friends you make, the projects you launch together, the amount of bonding that happens when things go south. Um, and I think those are extraordinary mechanisms for amplification and multiplication of messaging and narrative. Um, but it also can dramatically backfire. We've seen communities rally against founders. We've seen communities fork a project and make it their own. We've seen all sorts of community form for both positive and negative outcomes from what was originally intended. How do you frame community when you're working with a project? And what are the maybe traps you've encountered in dealing with, because we're all human, right? And sometimes we work as a mob. We move like a mob, and that is both rational and irrational at times. So what are these traps, if you have found any, and what are the mechanisms you've put in place for some of your clients to kind of pay attention? Because we're talking about the red flags when it's about the client, but when it's about the community that they're trying to either leverage or foster, it's beyond due diligence, it's beyond control. So what are the mechanisms, or even the formulas you found to kind of identify the traps and anticipate it and move beyond what they could impose to the project, so you don't end up on a situation where the community is just running away with the idea, and making everything miserable?
Yeah, I think that's a really good question. I think that this question asked maybe a year or two ago would have been hard to figure out, other than like having true community mods in there, monitoring people that were like real evangelists that could recognize when the community was going awry, or make sure that like the narrative stayed on track, or kept the founders, what's the word, like reliable or honest, et cetera, et cetera. And it was like, it was very much like a figuring out game. I remember when we first started Babs, we had quite a few gaming projects, and it was like that. It was like trying to really understand that we were always doing the right thing for the community, and also making sure that the founders were too. But now this question, I think, is different in this day and age, where we can use tools to actually measure how valuable the community is, right? We can see smart followers. We can see when people are actually talking about the narrative that we want to. Are they all talking about DeFi? Are they all talking about yield? Whatever it might be. Um, are they really engaging? Is it true engagement? Or is it just like farmed some random guy with like 200 followers saying the same message over and over, or GM type of thing? So now, because that we have all these tools, we can make sure that we can keep the community honest. And as a result, I think it's like we can, how do I say it? It's like we have to make sure that we're giving them what they want, because it's like we can see really in depth when they're super committed, when they're responsive, what they like, what we're saying, if they like it, they don't like it, all of that stuff. So it's like it almost puts more onus on the project to be better, and to give more, and to like improve the quality of the project. um I think now what I see is that because of that, we can build more valuable communities, and that people that are really true to the project are sticking around and are giving back that value than maybe before. So now we can see communities of like 300 that are super amazing, versus before we could have discords or telegrams of like thousands, and probably half, if not more, were bots. So that's what's interesting to me. I mean, we did a VIP community for our project, and they were dead set on, they're like, we have to hit 500, we have to hit 500. They wanted kind of obviously VIP, which meant like whales and mini whales. And we kept saying, look, we have 300, and there we can measure that this wealth value is amazing. This is it. Keep it at this. No, no, no. And just by going over to that 500, it changed the dynamic completely of the group. Like because you're just looking for numbers as opposed to like true value. People that are there for that have the money to spend, that are there for the cause, that have read up on what it is. They're going to bring good value to it. That are going to go and speak about it to the people you need to be that need to hear about it. So I think I don't know if that answers your question, but that's what I'm seeing in the shift.
It does, and it also prompts me to question, what are we doing as an industry on the debate quality over quantity? Because your example just now, like you have a VIP Discord and you have 300 people. By bringing 200 additional people, the 300 originals no longer feel VIP anymore, right? And then obviously it will break the dynamic and it will create different types of problems in terms of numbers. So this very very interesting point in that regard. Now, in the regular show that we do every week, I do a lot of um, use case analysis because to me, I'm obsessed with use cases because I'm very practical and I can only explain the benefits of blockchains if I can explain what they're solving. It's a product person, so we have limitations. So, in your experience, working for now over what 6 years in the industry, what were the use cases that you found that were like, oh, this is special. This is true innovation. This is truly resolving a real world problem. Other than oh, I'm gonna copy whatever happened on Ethereum on this new chain that some VC launched this week, which we've seen a lot. There was some summers, as we say in the industry, were ripe with copycats um, across multiple chains. But what were the ones that you really like you were proud of being associated with and marketing for that you felt were pushing the industry forward? Where were they? What was the differentiating factor? What made you think and feel that they deserved a spot in the sun?
It's funny you say use cases. So for us, when we explain like who we are, Babs, we say we play in the use case part of Web3, meaning like we like projects that can actually have use. Because like you said, there's so many that aren't. I give a good analogy. I'm gonna date myself, but remember the movie Something About Mary?
I may have seen a replay reprise somewhere, but yeah.
So there's a scene where he picks up this like hitchhiker, and he says clearly he's like crazy, or he's like carrying a dead body or something ridiculous. And he said, "Yeah, I have this great business idea, 6 minute abs." And at that time it was really, popular, that video of 7 minute abs. And the guy's like, "But there's already 7 minutes abs." And he's like, "Yeah, but this is 6 minutes." So when I get off some calls, I'll tell the team, I'm like, "I just had a 6 minute ab call," because it's like the exact same thing, but they changed the most minimal thing. And you're like, no one needs this. So I completely understand what you were saying. But I think some of the biggest use case things that we see, I think, have to do in banking. So things that like in Africa, where people are struggling because of the inability to be banked because you might not have the right documents, or the inflationary issues, products that can come in and you can instantly move your money to there. And what you worked in the same for in parts of Latam, where you worked in the morning, your your value of your paycheck still is valuable by the end of day. Those products are going to be revolutionary, and there are products out there like that already. Or the one we're working on right now, Rack, is an amazing. It's going to TGA, I think, by end of year. Is an amazing project. It's a RWA project. They're tokenizing. One of the big things they're doing is like everyone talks about this, but they're tokenizing one of the biggest gold mines in the U.S. And but that's not the revolutionary part. It's their how their community is going to be able to participate in this product. So all of the different strategies behind where I don't know how much I can say yet. I just realized I'm saying stuff because we haven't released some features of it. But there's going to be parts of it that as the community, being a part of the community, you will be able to benefit as a whole, which is what all of these products should be, right? But they're not all holding true to that. Or at the beginning of last year, the year before, we were working on a project that was an on-chain private credit fund, which was huge. They got a bunch of investment. Unfortunately, I don't want to say the name because there were some missteps along the way, but that was going to be something that was really big. And what didn't work wasn't the product; it was other things that came to pass. Um, some other stuff we worked on. I think for me, it's anything that has to do with really changing the way people interact with crypto and making it easy. So anything that has to do Gnosis Pay, like they give you an IBAN, so that it's the ability to move money from crypto to banking. seamlessly, like without you even knowing that it's happening. That's huge. We work with Gnosis Ventures quite a bit. Um, and so I know those guys well. That's an amazing product. Yellow, they're building basically a blockchain on top of blockchain. So all of the blockchains will essentially be able to kind of talk to each other without you knowing you're moving between, like those types of things. When crypto or blockchain is happening in the background without the user knowing, those to me, I think are where we will see um, true like adoption and growth.
I love that. Three things from this answer. I had Marcos here
Yeah,
on the show, Brazilian,
yeah.
good friend. He, his sisters and my siblings study together, so absolute
Are
pleasure.
you Brazilian?
I'm Brazilian. Uh, Absolute pleasure having him on. Amazing work at Gnosis. The other thing you just said about when the blockchains are working and nobody sees as a blockchain, it's probably my favorite meme about blockchain. You know the Homer Simpson backing into a bush
Yeah,
meme?
yeah,
That is the view that I have for blockchain. There will be a day in my life when my work is done where I will not say the word blockchain.
yeah.
And I can absolutely look forward look forward to that day.
That's it.
And the third thing that you said, which then speaks to me being a product person, is user experience. If we're not solving for the people or the businesses, then what the hell are we doing in the industry?
Yeah,
And I think it's about time. There was a couple of weeks during summer where we saw a lot of the crypto Twitter folks like, where are the apps? Where are the apps? Where are the apps? I mean, instead of asking where are the apps, why are you not asking where are the problems we can solve?
yeah, yeah,
And then you build for that, right? So we're probably very used to asking the wrong questions in this industry, but hopefully we're now being threatened by institutional adoption. Maybe we should start asking the right questions
yeah,
and then move into a space where the institutions cannot compete because they can't move at pace as everybody else in crypto can. So it's going to be an interesting perspective. Um, is speaking of which, what has been your recent experience in this new institutional vibes we're seeing from a couple like 18, 24 months ago to now, where we're seeing even Cybos last week was all about stablecoins, Swift announcing an Ethereum layer 2 play, um, stablecoin summer. I mean, all of this smells institutional. How has this changed the landscape in both how you read the market and how your pipeline has changed, if anything?
yeah. That's a good question. In fact, before summer, beginning of last year or this year rather, we were working with a Bitcoin ETF company. So we have a board of advisors that are like some OG people in the space that basically we turn to and we're like, look, we have a new client. We need a little bit of advice on this and that, and they help with like strategies. They also are a massive lead gen funnel for us because they trust us and work with us. They send us a lot of good stuff. And one of them is in the hedge fund space, and he sends us, I mean, he's Canadian, he's like our biggest cheerleader, and he's an advisor for projects. So he sends us a lot of referrals, and he sent us a Bitcoin ETF. And it was interesting. We worked together for a while, and then and it was really, really interesting. And so we decided, look, we're going to lean into this and try and go more into TradFi because there's such a need because they had been functioning as an ETF company forever, for like the last, I don't know, 5 years. They had like something like 8 billion assets under management, and now they decided to create a Bitcoin ETF company, and then the Bitcoin ETF, and then they hired us because obviously this is Web3 marketing. It's different, or it's crypto marketing rather than Web3, and but the hardest part, they're a fantastic team, was just when we started kind of getting ramped up, legal comes in, regulations, and all of this stuff. And they were like, okay, we can't say this, we can't say that. Now we have to pause. Now we have to wait. And the speed of which our industry goes is so hard for that industry. So we have a pin in it right now. I'm actually seeing the CEO in like 2 weeks here in Barcelona, because they have just been, it's like they can't say anything legally until regulation hits, which doesn't take, it's not like launching a coin that you can just do tomorrow, even if you don't have a community. You need it's all of these hoops. So my question really is because we want to work more in that space. We see there's a gap there. We see there's a gap of people understanding how to move from that very tradfi space to the crypto world. Um, but it's just what you said, like how quickly can that very corporate world understand this world? Because there is a lot of retail interest, but you can't sleep on it and you can't take 2 years to make a decision. You know what I mean? And to get like your ducks in a row, or you lose like the boat is gone, it's sailed. Because our industry, 4 years in our industry, a year, months, 2 months in our industry is like an eternity. So I think that the adoption is there. I think we're going to see more of it. Stable coins are popping up everywhere. We know the guys that did the Euro stable coin, or one of them, Finance, ex Binance team. We're close with the team doing one out of Hong Kong. It's going to probably be the second one that gets approved. But I met those guys a year ago and they're still waiting on it. So I think it's going to be interesting to see how it evolves. And I think we're going to see it grow much quicker out of the Middle East and out of China, where they're like, screw waiting, and we're going to force through regulation.
Which is funny. I always say this. If you told me 10 years ago I would be excited with regulatory progress,
Yeah,
I would have died laughing and would laugh you out of the room. But here we are.
I'm actually pro regulation. I'll take a hot, what did you say? A hot topic, hot point. And the reason being on this side, you see so many scams. Like I could go on about the scams we've seen from project side, from investor side, from everything, that I feel that some sort of regulation is needed to weed out the bad actors, or our industry as a whole just gets like a super bad name. And I know there's such good projects in this industry, and it has the ability to do such good things, that if regulation helps get rid of the like shady people, I'm all for it.
I'm gonna double down on that hot take. Regulation, it is necessary. Proper regulation, not more regulation or less
Yeah,
regulation. Proper regulation.
right.
But regulation by itself can't do anything if the regulators themselves don't come on chain.
Hmm.
Because the financial services has been regulated for the entire history it existed, and there are still scams,
Oh yeah.
there's still fraud, there's still money laundering, there's still terrorism financing, and here we are. So I would agree with you, but I will double down on that.
Hmm.
That the stance in where regulators are operating now, which is regulation by PDF, as I say, they write a PDF somewhere and they put it on the website, and this is what's valid now. Go follow. Cannot be enforced if the money is moving at the speed of the internet,
Yeah.
which is what crypto is and Web3 relies on. So I always encourage regulators. I've had regulators on the show. I've worked for them. I've consulted for them,
Hmm.
and I always encourage them, come on chain.
Yeah.
It is good for you. It's good for us. It's good for everybody. If this is the rails, and the rails now allow you to establish frameworks, establish protocols,
Hmm.
program the money, well, maybe you have a shot at being a better regulator now than you ever had with your regulation by PDF. So we kind of agree.
Okay, good. Yeah, we totally agree. I agree 100%. And I actually, so Gary Gensler did an MIT course. It's completely free. You can watch it on YouTube. It's like 21 hours on blockchain. It's basically an intro to blockchain or to crypto. And most of the people, it's at MIT, and they're all MBA students. And it's from a perspective of like what it is, not from a technical perspective, but like financially. And it is so, I've seen watch the whole thing in 21 hours. It is so, so good. And when you hear him talk about it, and then you think, this is the guy that was pushing for that like the crypto world hated. But this guy knows his shit. He knows what he's talking about. So I think what happens is you have these people come in, regulators, and they don't even know what blockchain is. So I'd much rather someone that at least understood it.
That excuse is ending pretty quickly because even here in the UK, you have the Cambridge courses for regulators,
Yeah.
and and
Yeah.
they
They need to be taking
and they've
it.
been around for a while. So I think I'll sit aside the Gensler controversy. I've stated my opinion publicly, and I've been very vocal about it. We're past that, and it doesn't mean that it's going to get better. It's probably going to get crazy before it gets better, and hopefully we'll all survive. Um, Now, this is a 24/7, 365 industry. The blockchain doesn't stop. Blocks will be produced, right?
Mm.
How do you keep yourself sane and healthy working on such an environment?
So I think at the beginning when I got into this, I wasn't. And now, I mean, I'm a mom and I have a family, and that's important to me, to spend time with my kids. Um, and obviously, but I think so I think that's one thing is like having something outside of this industry. A lot of people don't. And then the other thing is really like setting a time to just like turn off, because I'm also like I'm very political too, and it's the same thing. I get on Twitter and it literally I think I could go crazy because you can just sit there and scroll for hours and read things, and then on top of that the crypto world and keep updated and blah blah blah, and it's you just I someone told me, I don't know if they were like a life coach or something, I heard this a bit ago, that you have to block out time for the news or for updates and stuff. So that's what I try and do. In the morning, I try and look at Twitter, get updated, and then in the evening. And the other thing is my team will send stuff. So I'm like, okay, that's interesting, that's interesting. But otherwise, I do think you can become like consumed by content, and it's just like sensation, what is it? Sensory overload. So I try and block out times to be productive, read, go down the rabbit hole, understand things. We're working a lot right now on and helping projects with what do you call it? TVL as a service. So I've been like going down the rabbit hole lately about yield and different yield strategies and understanding yield and stuff like that. But I only allow myself kind of an hour a day to research and like an hour a day to look into different projects that are doing yield. So otherwise I think it's all, and I'm not in a lot of Discord communities. We have people on the team that do it, and then they keep me updated. And I'm like, you tell me what's happening. I don't want to be in there. I can't do it.
I realize over the years that maybe I'm getting old, or I'm
Yeah.
realizing I'm in the spectrum, but sensory overload is something I'm dramatically trying to avoid, and even trying to limit my my own like travel, because yeah, it really takes a toll. Um, in that sense, in terms of like life and everything else, um, are there any friends or colleagues from your previous non-crypto Web3 life that reach out to you when, say, Bitcoin hits an all-time high and say, "Hey, I'm ready to join. Can you let me know where to start?" How do you onboard these people if that's something you do?
Yeah, that's actually good because I don't know. I'm actually Brazil is very crypto adopted, but so Spain is not. Europe is getting there, and so I tell when people ask me what I do in Spanish, I often just say I work in tech because it's like impossible to explain what we do. Um, but I started to say crypto, and so now I get a lot of my friends here, like Spanish people, saying that. How do I get on? What do I do? So I told what I've told most people, the easiest thing, because I don't want to give, not financial advice here. I don't want to like people put money in and all of a sudden something's not working and it's your fault that they've thrown all their money out the window. Um, is to do things like, for example, easy yield bearing stuff. So if you're putting money in your savings account and earning, I don't know what it is, like 2% or something pathetic here in Spain or even in the US, put it into something like Trust Wallet right now. Most of the wallets have it where it's just stable coins. So you just buy stable coins and then you put it into a yield bearing that you can immediately take out if you want, but it has a minimum of usually like 5 to 8%, and it's like very low risk. So that's what I've told family members, some of my friends here that want to start. And they're all doing it and they'll tell me, like, oh, it went up, whatever. And then some people I've said, Bitcoin's at a price right now. If you're looking, it might be good, but I wouldn't buy more than anything you can lose. Because if it goes up, even it goes down and you've bought, and then I'm, to blame. So I've gotten some people to buy a little bit of Bitcoin and they all do it through Revolut. A lot of people are buying through Revolut here in Europe. or at least through the UK. I think that's my most sane onboarding for like total newbies. That's all I can give because I am too scared to give anything else, and then people lose their money and it's my fault.
Or you send them the Gansler 21-hour YouTube course,
Yeah,
so they
this
can
is what you should do. Do you want to
go,
learn about
yeah,
it? Watch this.
learn about it, and you'll not believe who this guy is. Um,
Yeah, you'll die. A slow death. It's actually a really good class, but still.
in terms of the industry, in everything you see, what's the one thing we must solve now before working another 20 years and realizing we didn't, and then we're back to square one? What is that one thing and why?
That's a really good question because I kind of have two, but
You get to pick one of them.
I know I'm like trying to think here if I would say. I think the one thing I guess I would probably say is like the user experience. Um, because even for like Web 2, when you go on your banking app, there are very few banking apps that are reactive and good. And I think if we really wanted to get people on board, you have like Phantom. They've done super well, and we love that wallet as a company. We use them a lot because the UX is so easy. It's so easy for people, and I think that that it gives people trust, and then it also allows people to onboard and be like, okay, this is easy. I'm just moving money, or it's just as easy as having a Revolut or as having Wise. Um, so I think so many products don't have that. I mean, we've worked with some other wallets before, and it's like they add bajillion features, and then you go on, and the most basic thing is still not easy to do. And you think, dude, just do the most basic first, and then we'll figure, then you add on all the bells, like the bells and whistles. But if someone can't get past step one, they're not going to do staking on 60, you know what I mean? So I think I would argue, I would say UX, and that probably is because my co-founder is like a UX product freak, and it's one thing she points out all the time, but it's something that is hard, is something that like me, as I would consider myself. Obviously, I use crypto and that's my business, but I don't do a lot of. She does all the operations, so my movement of stuff isn't. So I want my interface to be the easiest as possible.
I subscribe to that very much, and being a product person, it's kind of second nature. First thing you think is like, why, why are we doing
Yeah.
this? Awesome. We're about time, so thank you so much, Catie. It was a very much fun and entertaining conversation. Love learning more about your trajectory, your journey in and out of crypto, and hopefully we'll bump into each other at some random crypto conference somewhere. Before we do that, how can people keep tabs on what you are doing and Babs and all the good stuff you're working on?
Babs Twitter is probably the best place to figure out, or LinkedIn, but for more of the crypto world, which is Babs underscore agency. And then myself, it's just my name. So Catie Romero for Twitter. And then LinkedIn, I do probably more there after events and when I'm, posting about things happening in the industry. And my DMs are always open. Actually, I'm very, I mean, I have my security set up, but if someone has a great idea and wants to share it, it's the same at Catie Romero for Telegram. I'm happy to chat.
Awesome. Thank you again, and see you some next time.
Yes, thanks, Mauricio.
Catch us online. We're on Instagram at BlockDropsPodcast, on Twitter at BlockDropsPod or ZeroXMauricio. We're on Lens at blockdrops.lens. We have a newsletter on LinkedIn. Write to us at blockdropspodcast@gmail.com, and you can listen to the Blockdrops podcast at Spotify, iColab, Faberboom Tech, and all of the other major streaming platforms. Yay! Shout out to Catie for sharing her story here with us. Such incredible insights from someone taking marketing and crypto to the next level. If you're interested in sponsoring the Blockdrops podcast, yes, we're opening for partners. hit us up at blockdropspodcast@gmail.com. Don't forget to leave the ratings on your favorite player and check out the merch store at blockdropspodcast.xyz. This is all for today. Stay rare, stay weird, LFG.